The controversy continues swirling around Brian Williams following the NBC anchor's admission that he made a mistake when he claimed a helicopter he traveled in while he was in Iraq was forced down by enemy fire. Our senior media correspondent Brian Stelter is in New York to tell us it just got worse. Good morning.
Yeah, it really does seem to get worse, Carol. For the first time this morning when I'm speaking to my sources at NBC, I hear more confusion and frankly I hear fear in their voices about how this is going to play out, because there are even questions being raised about other stories Brian Williams reported in other parts of the world. There's questions being raised about his reporting about Hurricane Katrina. But I want to pause and tell you about something important that I first shared with you here on yesterday's program. I interviewed a pilot who was in Iraq with Brian Williams, Rich Krell. He's told me he was the pilot on the aircraft that Brian Williams traveled on, and that it did come under small arms fire, but not an RPG strike. So he was in some ways supporting Brian Williams' account. In other ways, he was contradicting Brian Williams' account. Well, that pilot was there, but there are several other soldiers that came forward last night and said, actually, no, Brian Williams was on our aircraft, not Rich Krell's. And this morning, Rich Krell text messaged me and said now he is questioning his own memories. He says that the nightmares of Iraq have now resurfaced in him, and he wants them to go away. Essentially, Carol, he is backtracking. I think it's really important to tell viewers that that has happened, that he is no longer standing by his story. It's obviously difficult, Carol, because in retrospect, I wish I hadn't shared the story at all. We did do a lot to verify his story, to check about him. I found a photo of him with Brian Williams. I checked with NBC, all of that, and I spelled that out online on CNN.com. But most importantly, his story does not check out. And instead, the stories that are checking out, Carol, are the stories of the other soldiers who say Brian Williams was never even affected by small arms fire. Basically, this makes the situation even worse for Brian Williams, because all these soldiers are coming out in newspaper stories and saying that Brian Williams was nowhere near the scene of this Iraq attack.
Back to this, what his name is Krell? I can't remember his first name. Rich Krell. Yeah. So why would he do that?
You know, he heard me talking on CNN yesterday. He heard me on New Day talking about these reports that Brian Williams was an hour away from the site of the RPG attack. He says, and he said to me repeatedly yesterday, that his memories were very clear, that Brian Williams was close to the scene and that the plane did come under fire, but not under that rocket-propelled grenade attack. He now says he's questioning his own memories, and I wish I had an answer for you about why that has changed. We're going to keep trying to talk to him and keep trying to talk to other soldiers as well. Bottom line is, though, he's revising his story, so I want to make sure we revise ours as well.
Okay, so going back to NBC and the chaos there, because we all remember what happened with Ann Curry, so NBC's got that to worry about too, right? So they have to be careful about what they decide to do with Brian Williams, correct?
This is a crisis for NBC. You're right. You know, look at this morning's New York Post. I've never seen anything quite like this. So this is a network news anchor with a Pinocchio nose on him, calling him a nose for news. Yeah, this is humiliating at this point for Brian Williams and for his colleagues. I can tell you that Tom Brokaw, for example, his predecessor, is furious about what's going on. And there's lots of people in the rank and file at NBC who also have a lot of questions about the murkiness of Brian Williams' story. You know, the reason why me and lots of other reporters are trying to interview the other soldiers and others there is because there is all this lack of clarity about what really happened. And like I said, I'm sensing even a little bit of fear at NBC about what to do and about how this is going to play out. He has a lot of credibility and he has a wonderful legacy of reporting, but there's serious questions now.
All right, Brian Stelter, I'll let you get back to it. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Still to